So it is a crazy time of year, right? End of the year. All right, so here we go. We have the MS Advocacy Hub. This is a program that we started at the beginning of the pandemic, and we are trying to continue. And our last program of this year, we have a special guest, and we will announce who this guest is in a moment. But again, for those that don't know me, well, here's the information. It's right here. And if you ever have any questions for me, you could just send an email. Tonight's program is supported by MS Views and News, and our guest for this evening is Mr. Timothy Coetzee, who is the Chief Advocacy Services and Science Officer for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. The reason for tonight's talk initially was to do like an update. What's going on in this world since COVID, all right? And, you know, when we were in the first year of COVID, 2020, we had Mr. Coetzee, Timothy Coetzee, we had him online to speak about what the National MS Society was doing for those with multiple sclerosis and COVID. And then we were going to have him on again in 2021, earlier the year, but he had to go on vacation, so we had to have two other people from the National MS Society. I say that in jest because it's become a joke. Anyway, we had a great talk at that time. So here we are at the end of 2021, and we're almost 2 years into COVID. It's crazy, but we're almost 2 years into, I should say we almost have completed 2 years of COVID since it began. And not that we're at an end yet, but, you know, where are we now? Where are we now? And where is, you know, what's the National MS Society doing? So I asked Mr. Coetzee to come back online so we could ask these kinds of questions. So again, we will be speaking about COVID. Sorry about that. I'll say hello to you in a minute. We will be speaking about COVID, and after those topics are done, we are going to speak about PPMS. We're going to speak about self-help groups. We're going to speak about the MS community and getting out there again and doing things, okay? So firstly, let's welcome Timothy Coetzee. How are you?
Good evening, Stuart. It's great to be with you and with your audience, and it's great to be back again to, you know, reconnect and talk a bit about MS. Some time has passed, but, you know, some things have changed, some things have stayed the same, and it's just great to connect you. Thank you for your support for the community and for everything you do for people with MS.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So first question that I have for you, because we're just going to get into all these questions, right? We're going to get into the questions that I have for you, and then we're going to get into questions that the audience has for you. What are the MS Society's general guidelines these days for people living with MS and the vaccine?
Sure. So great question. So, and that's an important topic. So first thing to say is our first guidance is get vaccinated. The vaccine is getting vaccinated against COVID-19, against the virus SARS-CoV, is the best option, one for, you know, preventing, you know, the disease from affecting you, and it's also, you know, for protecting those around you. You know, the National MS Society has a group of experts led by Dr. Nancy Sykott, who is a neurologist at at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, really a terrific MS researcher, clinician, and we've got people who have expertise in viruses, the immune system, and all the different aspects of MS. And so if you visit the National MS Society's website, you can see our guidance around this. And as I said, we lead with, you know, get vaccinated, encourage people you know to get vaccinated. You know, getting vaccinated does not get in the way of your disease-modifying treatments, and so there's no need to worry about that. And that's really the most important thing that we can encourage individuals to do. I know because you know, some of your audience will say this. You know, there are questions about, well, how effective is this vaccine going to be if I'm on a B-cell therapy? You know, I know a lot of folks are, you know, have said, you know, I've gotten vaccinated, but I still don't seem to be generating antibodies. And, you know, what do I need to be concerned with if I'm on one of the CD20s, as they call anti-CD20s? And our guidance is, you know, even, you know, if you're on one of those treatments or the other high efficacy treatments, get vaccinated. One of the aspects about COVID-19 is that we still don't fully, you know, haven't fully sorted out is that, the immune system is more than B cells. There are these other cells in the immune system called T cells that fight off infections. And, the science is now trying to understand what's the role of T cells in fighting off this virus and how does the vaccination get involved in that. That science is coming. And so I just think, our guidance is get vaccinated if you haven't already been vaccinated. And just to note that if you go to the National MS Society's website, you can go to our COVID-19 section and you can get information there on both the vaccine, but also our guidance around, the vaccine in the context of disease-modifying therapies people may be taking.
That's quite true. Thank you very much for laying all that out. So a big question that we run into all the time, since we're doing so many programs in rural America, is that the information from the National MS Society is not really reaching rural America. Mm-hmm. Yes, if a person is on the internet or has internet access, they're able to, there's less challenge for them. Mm-hmm. For those, though, that are living quite remote or don't see anybody else with MS and don't get to see their doctor too much and currently are afraid to come out of their homes and go places, how do we get them educated better about the need for them to get vaccinated?
Certainly. So I think a couple of things, right? So if individuals, don't necessarily visit our website, that obviously there are other options. One is if they visit their doctor and talk to their doctor, encourage their doctor to get the information from the National MS Society website, to contact our healthcare professional team who are able to support them. Their doctors have that access to that information. We have access to professionals. If they, even if they don't necessarily, surf the internet, but visit sites like YouTube or something like that, looking up the Society's YouTube channel, and looking up our Ask an MS Expert series, which is like your, MS News and Views. We have a weekly series called Ask an MS Expert, and several of those episodes are dedicated to the COVID-19 vaccine, considerations people may have. The other thing I'd encourage folks to do is to contact our MS Navigator program, and there they can speak with an MS Navigator, and the MS Navigator can actually talk to them about the information they should be considering, what they should, and potentially, if they need to, we can also mail information to them so that we can get information out to folks who may need it. Reaching rural America is important to us, and so I appreciate your flagging that, Stuart. It's a gap that we're all of us, all MS organizations, yours included, are trying to tackle.
Yes.
And I think I welcome, if folks have ideas, certainly send them my way, because we're always looking for concepts.
All right. So now I'm going to take it to another step of rural America, and then we'll get back into all these other questions.
Sure.
And this has come up at a lot of the meetings that I'm on with, pharma and the other organizations, is that I don't know about other organizations, but we are hearing from patients that go to see their doctor in these rural regions around the U.S., and their doctors are telling them, do not get vaccinated.
Right.
And these are neurologists. These are just general neurologists. But how can the society possibly, flag all neurologists and get information to them?
Right. So something is being done. So you're absolutely right. We know that many people with MS are seen by an MS specialist, and oftentimes people will travel many hours to see an MS specialist, but not everybody is seen by an MS specialist. Some people are even treated for their MS with a family doctor, and so we as a society have made it a priority to reach what we call general neurologists. Some people call them community neurologists. We call them general neurologists because they're the neurologists that see lots of people. And so we have a staff team that is focused on this effort, and we're working with our presidents in all 31 about what we call our chapters, our markets, to identify those neurologists. We've actually now got access to the resources to find them, to mail information to them, to communicate with them via email, to have educational webinars. The other thing we've done is we've created a special program we call our ECHO program. And the ECHO program is one where it is focused on creating learning opportunities for general neurologists to come in and connect with an MS specialist, to learn from an MS specialist. They do this virtually. We have 3 hubs, one at Duke University, one at University of Washington in Seattle, and one in St. Louis. And so we actually, every 3 months or so have 10 or 12 doctors, and then they go out and they spread information in their community. Now, this is, not hundreds or thousands at a time, but, we've made this investment that, we'll have this sustainable momentum. And so that's one of the channels we're doing. The other opportunities we're doing is exploring how can we partner with professional organizations like the American Academy of Neurology, which brings all of these neurologists together to create educational opportunities, engagement, and the like. What I'd say to your audience is, if you're seeing a general neurologist and they say, don't necessarily get vaccinated, knowledge is power, and I would say, talk to the doctor about visiting the National MS Society's COVID-19 page, and even print, if you can, print out the information we make available for health professionals to bring to them. Because oftentimes these peer-to-peer conversations between a doctor to a doctor can change, help change a doctor's mind. And as a patient, you have that knowledge that, the experts are saying get vaccinated. I think that's an important tool that we have available for people.
Sure, but you're telling, and I'm not being argumentative, all right? But you're telling us this right now. But going back now to that person that does not have internet or does not see our program, all right? How are they going to know to dispute this with their doctor and tell their doctor to go see what the MS Society says? And furthermore, is it possible that maybe the National MS Society create a public TV PSA campaign about this?
Sure. So that's a great advice, Stuart. I think that's certainly something that I can take, and we can, chew on that with our team. You've put your finger on a tough issue, and I think, we are a big country. Lots of people live in parts of the country that don't have access, to some of the issues, and I think, I'm with you that, there are challenges that we've got to solve around this, and that, the internet medium is not the only one. I mean, people don't have access to the tools. They may not use a smartphone, may not have access to the broadband people need, and so that is an issue that I think we're going to continue to work on. I'll be open that we haven't solved this, not entirely.
That's correct, but now I'm going to go another step further, right? So there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that have smartphones, are able to get on the internet, look at their email, don't pay any attention ever to social media, and don't pay ever any attention to anything that comes to them by email unless they recognize the name on there. So there are still tons of people living in Nashville who consider getting the vaccine a big no-no because they saw a doctor. I'm just saying this as an example. They went to go see a doctor in northern Tennessee who is against getting the vaccine. And for him, it's more political than it is anything.
Oh, right. Yeah, certainly.
Right. So that raises other problems with the MS patient getting the correct information. And that's why I'm saying, and that's why I brought up about the MS Society creating a PSA on television. So that way, Mary Jane, whoever living in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, may be on the internet, may do all different things, but she pays more attention to the commercials on TV.
No, that's a great point, and something that we should. I appreciate your flagging that, and I can certainly bring that back. Just as a note, my wife Mary Jane is actually downstairs, so there's a Mary Jane in Albany, New York. So great.
That's right. Just like there's a main street in every town. You can't figure out where to go to on your GPS. Just put in the town name and the word Main Street, and you'll find where you have to go.
That's funny. and for your audience, Stuart did not know that my wife's name is Mary Jane, so that was
I did not. But I told you we're going to have fun tonight. All right.
That's great.
So let's move on to the next thing. And you're in the hot spot, all right? Because it's the end of the year, and I know who to direct these questions to, and that's why I asked you to be on this program so late in the year. Okay. All right.
Let's have fun.
Great. All right. Next, so on the same level, but not really the same. It's not just a matter of telling people to get vaccinated, but how to tell them that it's safe for them to get vaccinated.
Sure.
And so what campaigns have you all got going that get the information out to people?
So, I'd say right now our major effort, as you say, and it has its limitations, like you say, about for those who don't follow the internet. Our major campaign is through our digital and our social and through our broad, outreach to the MS community, to let people know and share information through Facebook, our Facebook social learning group, as we call it. We have an online community called the Mighty, which we just launched. And also, I'd say an important piece is organizations like yours, the MS Coalition, also sharing the information about COVID and the vaccine. Our guidelines are endorsed by all of the MS Coalition members, which I know MS News and Views is part of, or Views and News. Sorry, so I always flip those. Yeah,
Okay.
MS
You
Views
say
and
it both
News.
ways.
And I think for us, we know that you have connections that we don't have. Our goal is get the information out there, let people know. We've also gotten it into the hands of our healthcare providers, our partners in MS Care. I'm really trying to spread it as much as we can. I think we know there is misinformation out there. There's no question. There are people who are spreading false information. We try to just be very clear about what we know, what we don't know, and help people understand the power of science in advancing this, and also the important cautions people should take of still wear a mask if you're concerned about your body's ability to generate antibodies and the like, and take the appropriate cautions, but also to keep living as well, which is also an important piece, and not losing connection with people, and using tools like this to be able to connect to people throughout the season.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. Next question. I won't argue any of that. Okay. That was all great stuff. Okay. All right. I don't mean to argue, but debating on a good level. All right. All right. Is there any specific preferred vaccine brand that is recommended for people living with MS over the other brands?
No, any of the vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, Janssen, which are all the approved ones in the United States, any of those which are offered, get vaccinated. Take whichever one. I have been vaccinated. I've been boosted. Pfizer is my thing, but if they'd offered me Moderna, I would have taken that. Whatever is available. If people haven't gotten vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you have a chance to get a booster as well, since we have the early data now coming out about its potential benefit with this new variant. So I think that's what I'd encourage folks to do.
Okay. What are the recommendations for people living with MS after they are fully vaccinated?
I think, it's continue to, observe the usual cautions. I think this is one of the aspects of this, that I've talked with people with MS. They said, we're already used to being cautious, and being out and, taking care of yourself, particularly in flu season. We encourage people to get their flu shot as well. And so, it is one of those things to be sensible. But, I also know folks who live with MS who are asking me just the other day, should I travel internationally to, this one person was asking me, he wants to go to a Latin American country on vacation in the new year. And my advice was travel, wear your mask while you're on a plane. And the only caution I said to him is, just make sure that, if you happen to get COVID, you can be in another country for a couple of weeks. But that's just the only, that's the only thing you have to pay attention to. But I think, observing those cautions is the key. Wearing a mask around public. I still will tend to wear a mask in places that are crowded, just for my own safety.
I understand that. I have a cold right now. We think it's a cold, and it's like everybody wants to stay away from me. They're like, "Did you get COVID tested?" I said, "Listen, I could breathe fully. It's not even that I really feel like I have a cold. I sneeze every now and then, so it could be an allergy, right?"
Yeah, we're going to be in that world for a little while yet, but I see a light at the end of the tunnel. I do see a light.
I hope so. So a lot of what we're talking about has benefited basically those that are adults. Do you have the same recommendations for children with MS?
Certainly, I think that they've got the vaccine has been approved for pediatric indications, and so they're again recommending that people get vaccinated. Definitely consult with your pediatrician, consult with your neurologist, follow the guidance that they have. But we continue to stand. Where the FDA and the CDC go is where we follow their guidance, and so that is our recommendation as well.
Sure, thank you. The FDA today approved boosters for 16 and 17-year-old children. So
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, everybody that are online that are asking questions, I will get to them. Okay. Just so you know, I will get to them. But first, we're going to go through everything that I have first, so I don't lose my frame of mind. Okay. All right. Next, are there any specific known effects of COVID-19 on people living with MS?
So, I think we've had a study called, we've been actually doing a registry called COVIMS, which has helped us, gain some insight around how COVID has affected people with MS. And, what that study has told us, and it's something where the doctors put information in when they've had a patient who's been exposed to COVID and have had the sort of long-term effects. What we've learned as a result of this is that people with MS, particularly those with progressive MS that, have, some of the comorbidities, hypertension, overweight, some racial and ethnic considerations, had a risk that was comparable to the general population. So that was the one, the good news piece is that people with MS in and of having MS didn't necessarily make one more susceptible to COVID, but having, progressive MS along with some of the comorbidities that sometimes are associated with, life, did create a higher risk profile. Obviously now that has shifted with the vaccines and people learning how to manage the disease, we are also starting to learn a bit more. There are international efforts where people are trying to gather all of the data from all of the registries around the world to try to understand. And I would say in general, we're seeing the same thing, that the patterns are individuals with progressive MS, older, with comorbidities, have a higher risk of more severe disease relative to younger individuals. And so that is somewhat consistent with the general population of people not affected by MS. So that's an indicator of how it's likely less the MS and more the aspect of having a comorbid condition, as they call it. And we're going to continue to study that. Some folks may be wondering, what about this thing called long COVID? I don't know that long COVID, which is where people have the symptoms long after the disease has resolved it. The acute case of COVID has resolved itself. We're learning more. I am not aware of studies that right now have looked at long COVID and looked at the neurological implications of long COVID in people with MS. I imagine that may be coming. I would share with your audience the volume of scientific information being published around COVID and all of the other dimensions is just staggering. It's a little hard to keep up at times. But I imagine we'll see some additional studies around that coming forward.
Thank you very much. What do you do for a person who is using a B-cell depleter, who gets the vaccines and then gets COVID?
Right. So in that instance, I think the doctors are managing that very carefully, and I think that I've known individuals who are on a B-cell therapy who got COVID, and they recovered and are just fine. And part of that is because this is the point I made, that the anti-CD20s are targeting B cells for the purpose of trying to keep them out of the brain, but there are other parts of our immune system that fight off the viruses, the T cells, for example, that are involved, and the other aspects of our immune system that get actually triggered by some of these vaccines as well. And so I think they're careful, they're manage it, and they, I think there's not a specific sort of, I think, set of treatments. One thing I do know is that folks are starting now to take those antiviral treatments that have been approved.
Right.
A couple of folks, so there are options like that. We've got a new one that was just approved. And so those tools are now coming into the doctor's toolbox, which I think is also important for people with MS to know, is that more of those are coming. And so, contracting COVID while having had even if you're vaccinated, does have with it options that the doctors will be able to treat you with.
Okay, so thank you for that. Now, a person that is using a B-cell depleter, when is it safe for them to get a booster in relation to should they be using the same theory as like when they got vaccinated?
Yeah, so they should probably follow that, and I would encourage them to keep an eye on our vaccine guidance because we update that as new science is coming. And so there's going to be some consideration around the timing of that. And so that's an important conversation with the neurologist in particular to say, my goal is to try to make sure that I've got a good, robust response before I, take my next B-cell depleter. So that timing is important. The other thing too is if a person is newly diagnosed and they're going to start a B-cell depleting therapy, to talk with the doctor about the timing of getting their vaccine relative to when they start their B-cell depleting therapy, so that they're able to get a good response, a good boosted response before the B-cell depleting therapy comes into play.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Does the MS Society have any information or data on the booster shot, specific data? I know we've just been talking about it, but do you have any data that you can share with the community?
At this point, in the context of people with MS, I'm not sure about published studies with the boosters right now. I know that there's work that's come out of Israel related to the boosters. I think off the top of my head right now, I don't. But I would surmise that some of what we're seeing with the general population, we'll see in people with MS. And that the booster, one of the advantages of things like boosters is that they amplify other parts of the immune system and they make it more robust. And so the thing about vaccines like this is the continued exposure to the things that trigger the vaccine, just from the standpoint of the immune system, makes it even more aggressive, even more robust, so that the immune system is then able to attack the virus in multiple ways. And that's a good thing, actually, for people with MS.
Okay, thank you. Have you seen any new or strong community resources available that you can recommend for people to look into today with regard to all of this?
Community, sure. So community resources, I would recommend people, again, take a look at our website, the Covid-19. We keep that up to date with the latest information. You can also, I encourage folks, the National MS Society has what we call our Facebook social learning group. So if you go to our website and go to the section and get connected, we have a community group in Facebook that is really focused on people learning and supporting each other. And so it's a community that people are invited to. It's closely managed. We have some pretty strict rules about what people can and can't do. So there's no promotion and things like that. But what it allows people to do is share information, share experience in real time. And then the other resource I would definitely encourage folks to do is watch our Ask an MS Expert series, where we put information about COVID along with other things throughout the year. It's a weekly program that's hosted by our friend John Strum, who's a podcast host as well, the host of the Real Talk MS podcast. You might have had John on one of your episodes.
I think that somebody did. It might have been Damien. So
yeah, John's a good friend, and his podcast is also, which he does weekly, is a great resource of information as well for breaking news around research, but also he does segments on COVID-19. Just full disclosure, the society sponsors John's podcast, but he has full editorial control and all of that. So,
okay, thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that you support him. Okay. Many people have asked, and I tell them I have no clue. So
yeah, no, we're proud to sponsor him. It's his show, but we're proud to sponsor the show and the content that he gives.
Sure, thank you for that. All right, next we're going to get into some patient questions because I do have quite a few mounting up, and I do want to thank you for answering the questions that I asked you. All right, so the first one says, longest I should try to wait for booster after Ocrevus infusion. Not going to continue with the Ocrevus for fears and wanting to switch to Mavenclad. So I don't know why to ask the first question.
Yeah. So I think, thing to consider is, Ocrevus targets the B cells, but, Mavenclad also targets, the cells that, generate B cells as well. So I think, having a conversation with your doctor about the timing around, Ocrevus and discontinuing Ocrevus versus starting Mavenclad is what you'd want to consider. Just, full disclosure, I may be a doctor, but I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a PhD doctor. So I'm not providing any sort of medical guidance around that, but I would certainly encourage an individual, first of all, to talk to your doctor. We have information on our website about, the timing of the vaccine relative to a person's disease-modifying treatments. I think the main thing with thinking about the booster and thinking about the timing is the booster helps, amplify the body's natural ability to fight off COVID. So I would definitely, try to get that so that you have, the ability to get it, get your immune system nice and strong. Relative to the timing of either taking your next Ocrevus infusion or switching over to Mavenclad. But that's definitely something to talk with your doctor about and think through those considerations.
Okay, great, thank you. Next, Becky is asking, how likely would a vaccinated person who gets breakthrough COVID able to spread it to a person on DMT, specifically B-cell therapy, who has also been vaccinated with a booster?
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm trying to figure out. So a person who has breakthrough and should, I think the question would be is a person who has, is infected, and if they know they're infected, could they spread it to somebody who, is on a DMT and also vaccinated, could they get it? The short answer is yes. The important thing to consider is that the vaccines that we give folks there, individuals still can get an infection with COVID. But what these vaccines are doing is that they reduce the risk that if you do get COVID, that it'll be the what we call severe COVID. And so it is possible that individuals could get a virus. The virus is very wily and, infects people. But again, the goal with the vaccines is to get your immune system strong enough to fight it off so that you don't have the severe one that puts people in ICUs. So if a person is COVID positive, they should take all of the precautions taken to make sure that people around them don't get it. And it's possible that a person could spread it to another person, unknowingly. And so that this is why doing things like continue to manage social distancing, paying attention to wearing masks, considering what it's like, how you're going to manage things if you're in a crowd, are all things that are really important, particularly in the winter season now. For those like I live in the Northeast, with flu season and winter season, it's really important to continue to pay attention to that. And obviously now with the holiday seasons, this is something for folks to pay attention to. But I do think having that awareness that, being vaccinated helps you fight off the virus, but it doesn't, prevent you from possibly getting the virus. That is, what we would call a sterilizing vaccine. And these vaccines are not, that's not the type of vaccine that we have. But it's not a reason to be fearful of it. I mean, the good news about these vaccines is that they prevent the severe version of COVID, and that's the key part. Keeping people out of the hospital and ICUs is sort of the critical aspect that these vaccines are built to do.
That's right. So Becky's adding to her question, and she says that I'm wondering about if neither person is wearing a mask, like a family member, how that would affect things.
So that's one of the things, not wearing a mask, being in close proximity. If somebody, the virus could be transmitted from one person to the next. And so that's why it's important to pay attention to these issues. But also it's not a reason to not be around folks. I think it's important to have awareness and understand, these are factors, as we get into the holiday season. I'm going to be around family gatherings. I'm paying attention to who's coming in and out of things. And so I think that sort of common sense approach to managing that, I know people with MS in routine life are used, already do in many situations, but it is something to be attentive to and to pay attention to.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have a Penny, and Penny is writing. Some of these questions are going to get long. I'm gonna need like another set of readers to read these things. They're so long. All right, comment is, this is a good opportunity to remind people that the CDC advises a third dose 4 weeks after the second dose. This is different from guidance for a 6-month booster. I don't understand that, so if you could explain. And then she continues with, the CDC has said that immunosuppressed patients, MAT, consider a 4th dose 6 months after they complete the full vaccination.
Mm-hmm. So I think what the CDC is saying there, and that's an important piece, is that for people who have an immune system that's immunosuppressed, where they don't have as strong an immune response as individuals who don't have don't worry about that. A fourth booster could, again, it's about amplifying up whatever immune response you have, and that's the thing about our immune system, that even if you don't have the strongest immune response in the first go around, when you give somebody an exposure to the second one, it gets stronger, even if it's just a little bit more. Doing a third, it's a little bit more. Fourth could be an even a little bit more. And so that's why they're advising that. Now, that's again under the discretion of a doctor, talking to your doctor about the fact that you have an immunosuppressed situation, and that's certainly something that I would encourage individuals to talk to their doctor about. We're continuing to explore the timing around all of those things. The CDC guidance is what we follow, so that would be what I would also ensure that people pay attention to.
Okay, thank you. This next one is a really, really long thing for me to say, and so you may want to write notes as we go along here. So this comes from Kay. Okay, Kay. What is your opinion on the new COVID vaccine? The Washington Post yesterday, 12/7, or 2 days ago, reports pharmaceutical companies Medigako, CAGO, and GlaxoSmithKline announced on Tuesday positive efficacy and safety results from a global trial using what they say is the world's first plant-based coronavirus vaccine. Continuing, the global late-stage placebo-controlled efficacy study, which included 24,000 adults across 6 countries, found that the overall efficacy rate of the vaccine candidate was 71% to 75.3% against COVID-19 of any severity for globally dominant Delta virus.
Okay. So lots there. So
Yes.
A couple things. Once, obviously, it's good to have another vaccine in the mix, and certainly a plant-based vaccine. Why that's helpful is that it allows for more manufacturing in lots of parts of the world where they may not necessarily have the kind of special equipment, like the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. They require these freezers that are really super specialized, super incredibly cold, and many parts of the world that are affected by COVID, they don't have those. It requires a lot of really specialized logistics to manage. So what Glaxo has developed, I think, will really be important for really eradicating this thing globally, which I think all of us would agree. We want everybody in the world to be free of this. And what we have in the United States, I will tell you, many people in Africa don't have it. So that's an important aspect. And so that's one positive. The other positive is that the results they're reporting are really excellent. That's 71% against placebo is terrific. That's good. It's not necessarily as strong as what we saw with Pfizer and Moderna, but anytime you can get over 50% with a vaccine of this nature, that's really good, because again, here the goal is not eradication of the virus, but actually preventing the severe disease. That's what we're going for. And those results, 24,000 person global study, that's really strong. That's on the lines of what Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J did as well. So I think having another vaccine, entrant into the pipeline is really important. I haven't heard that they're filing for approval with the FDA yet. Maybe they will. They probably will. The important thing is that this vaccine, if based on these results, if the World Health Organization and others can deploy it so that other parts of the world that don't have some of the access for Pfizer, Moderna like we do can have access to prevention, that'll just level things out for the globe, which I think all of us are concerned with our fellow citizens around the world.
Okay, great, thank you. Good answer. All right, next, Tammy's asking, if you had both of the vaccinations plus the booster, does being on Ocrevus still put you at a greater risk?
I don't know that it puts you at a greater risk. One of the things somebody may say is, and I've known folks, they've talked to me about this. They've had the booster, they're on Ocrevus, and their doctors still don't see very many B cells in their bloodstream, and that makes them wonder, like, what do I need to worry about? at the holidays. So a couple things again to pay attention to. One is, just be mindful of, if wearing a mask and and ensuring that we're socially distanced, or make sure that we're maintaining an environment where everybody around you is vaccinated and the like. That would be one consideration. Don't lose sight of the fact that while there may not be as many B cells in a person's bloodstream, you still have the T cells. You have all the other parts of the immune system, which are probably also active in these vaccines. We're starting to get the data. Those other parts of the immune system play an important role in fighting off COVID. So don't let the B cell piece be, the dominant part of the narrative. Keep an eye on the fact that there are other parts of how your immune system works. And again, continue to talk to your doctor, and also practice some of the, maintaining, distancing, wearing masks. I said to Stuart before the show started, I live in New York, upstate New York, and I'm putting a mask on when I go into the grocery store and the like, primarily again because I just don't want to get COVID, and I'm double vaccinated and boosted myself.
That's right. That's right. So, all right, next. Sorry about that, but yes, I got distracted for a second, but we're good. All right, so it's because people are asking other questions that I'm not ready for. All right, so
put me on the spot, Stuart.
Last question on the Ocrevus, and then we're going to head into other things that you guys are doing. You guys being the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, and I want people to know what you're doing with all this. All right, so. The last question is on the COVID and Ocrevus is, if you're on Ocrevus, should you get a full booster shot versus a half shot?
I guess maybe a full booster of Pfizer, I guess.
It says a full shot booster is the way they wrote it. So.
Yeah, so I don't think, as far as I know, boosters are full, are a full shot as well. So I'm not entirely sure. I would probably follow whatever your doctor offers you, take it. And so if they give you the booster, or it may be that, sometimes people get what we call an additional dose rather than the booster. And I think if the doctor's offering you an additional dose, take the additional dose. If they offer you the booster, take the booster. I'd say get whichever one your doctor feels is the appropriate one for you.
Somebody just wrote that it's Moderna that has a half dose for the booster, but you should get the full dose for the third.
Okay.
I thought the third is the booster.
Yeah, so I hadn't quite tracked on that, to be honest with you. So I think, but I'll follow up, and maybe if folks want to, reach out,
Sure.
Certainly we can
provide
some information later.
What about the people that are allergic to the mRNA?
Right. So that's an important consideration. This is where, Johnson & Johnson is a different type of a vaccine. Right. And so that would be an option for folks to consider, is to explore whether or not the J&J option would be right for them.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right. Thank you for talking about all this COVID stuff. If anybody has any questions on COVID, you had your chance. All right. Now we're gonna move on to something else. Let's talk about. Can you tell us what can be done publicly to get information from the National MS Society? Oh, this is still another question. This goes back to the other thing. Forget it. We're not going to ask that one. All right. We already spoke about that. That was at the very beginning. Okay. All right. But let's talk about what the National Multiple Sclerosis Society is doing these days for those with PPMS.
Sure. So obviously we support people with primary progressive MS through our MS Navigator program, our social, our various self-help groups and the like. We're very invested in also trying to find solutions for progressive MS and scientific and treatment solutions for progressive MS. We've obviously funded research in this area, but over the last 10 years, we've been very involved in the establishment of what we call the International Progressive MS Alliance, which is an international effort led by the Society along with several of the other major MS organizations, the Canadian MS Society, the UK MS Society, and others. Today, as I talked to you today, we have 20 MS societies working together to fund research in progressive MS, so both secondary and primary progressive MS. We've funded, we've invested, close to 20 million dollars in research, funding collaborations to discover new treatments, to find new ways to accelerate clinical trials. We're convening people to invest in improving quality of life, so investing in research that is focused on quality of life for people with progressive MS, and addressing things like pain, fatigue, cognition, all those aspects that are disruptive in progressive MS. And this is a global effort. So, we have people with progressive MS from Morocco, Finland, Australia, the whole world engaged in this effort. And so, our strategy really is about three things. The first one is understanding progression and what causes progressive disease. We still don't fully understand, when the transition from relapsing MS to progressive MS happens, what drives that. We have ideas about what drives that. I mean, we think that, it's a combination of, inflammation overwhelming the brain, and then things like our body's ability to repair itself, going over time. Sadly, I have to say it's also you and I aren't getting any younger, Stuart, and so age, I know you look awesome. You look great. I'm aging, but as we get older,
I'm just putting it on here.
I know the feeling, but I think all of us know that as we get older, our body's ability to, even when we cut ourselves, right? A cut heals much more slowly when you're older than when you're young, and so those are factors that weigh in to when somebody starts progressive disease. So we're investing in understanding what are the places that trigger progression and cause progression. We also know that we need to do something about how long it takes to do clinical trials in progressive MS. The good news is there's a number of treatments that are in clinical trials for progressive MS, more than ever. So that's the good news. The challenging news is that there's still not enough. And so we need to figure out how to do clinical trials faster. And the other thing we have to do is we've got to improve quality of life. We have to improve well-being for people who live with progressive MS, and that takes on a number of forms. That's part of that is inventing the new disease-modifying treatments, but the other part is addressing, interventions that improve quality of life, like just addressing fatigue. If we could address fatigue, that's a big step forward for people with progressive MS. So the world, I would say that scientists are more focused on progressive MS today than they ever have been. But the good news also is that we've got, MS organizations, industry, we've got regulators all engaged with us to do something about that. And the society is really proud to be a part of that and help lead that effort.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, next, let's talk about the advocacy work that the National MS Society is doing now. And by the way, if anybody has questions right now about PPMS or like I just brought up about advocacy, please type them away. All right. That's what we're here for. Right. We're here to provide this great resource for you. And that's what tonight's program is about.
Yeah. So advocacy is really a critical part of that. We have an amazing team of staff leaders who are engaged across the country. And so we advocate at the state and federal level. So across the country. I think, I'd say to your audience, if you haven't signed up to become an MS activist, join our MS Activist Network. And, you can get regular updates. We've got 35,000 activists. I think you're one of them, Stuart, I suspect.
I was going to tell you that. I am listed, yes.
You're an activist, and, we create opportunities for activists to tell their stories, both at the federal level and at the state level. And we do it in both places because some issues are ones that, can be handled in Washington, but there are other issues that really are at a state level, and that's one of the beauties of our country, one of the challenges as well. But things such as, for example, advocating for state legislatures to provide tax credits for home modifications. That's a really important issue, and anytime you get anything done to a house that's expensive, and modifying a house to be able to be accessible to somebody who has progressive MS is super expensive, not getting any cheaper. And that's where state legislatures actually can provide tax credits so that people can actually do that and make homes more accessible, and we can keep people in their homes. And so that's a state issue. And so we go state by state addressing that. And we've had some nice wins in that area of late.
Why would that only affect those that are with PPMS, though, and not for any portion of the disease?
So I should have been more broadly. It could be anybody living with MS. So it's not just primary, but if one is trying to make their home more accessible and trying to get put together resources, the state legislatures provide tax credits. There are state programs, so we advocate at that level. We also advocate at the state level around insurance because one of the issues is that insurance, our health insurance, is all regulated at the state level. And so state legislatures play an important role in ensuring that insurance companies don't create barriers to, with people with copays and copay assistance and all those programs, which really can take a bite out of an individual's pocketbook. And, we work at the state level there. We also advocate at the federal level. I mean, we are proud to be, supporting the Build Back Better Act because it actually has within it legislation to address things like drug pricing, to address things like health insurance access, and to really ensure that people with MS are able to access treatments. And so at a federal level, we're advocating around the cost of medicines, which I think we would all agree are really high. And I mean, having medicines is great. So I'll be the first to tell you that without the pharmaceutical companies, we would have none of the treatments. So it's really important that we have a robust and vibrant environment in our country that fosters innovation and gets us these breakthrough treatments. We also have to address the economics of it. It's just too expensive for too many people to afford these treatments, and so we have to address that. The other thing around at the federal government is we also are focused on Medicaid, making sure that Medicaid is accessible for people who are on an SSDI, and that the various aspects of Medicaid are, that we're not creating barriers for specific resources people have. The other aspect, we advocate around federal funding for research, an important aspect. Federal funding for research can go in two places. There's the National Institutes of Health, as we know it, that funds a lot of medical research. In addition, there's also work with the Department of Defense that has an MS research funding program, and MS activists actually have been able to, because of their advocacy, we've been able to see the Department of Defense, this year will contribute close to $20 million towards MS research, and we're involved with that. And so those are the kinds of things we're advocating for. We also partner with other groups, on things like telehealth, getting healthcare out to rural populations, addressing things like stem cells. And so, our approach as the National MS Society Advocacy is really around sort of three parts. It's, we identify issues that we lead on, but then we also identify those issues such as, some federal funding for research. We can work effectively when we partner with people and we engage with other people. And so we work with others because we know that there's power in coalitions. And sometimes you're stronger when you're with other people around something. And so those are things like disability access, those kinds of issues as well. So as I said, if folks are interested, sign up, visit the National MS Society's website, look under our activism section, become an MS activist. This year, last year, with COVID, our activism conference needed to be online instead of in person. And we had close to 900 people participate in our public policy conference, and so that was exciting.
Great.
Our activists are super engaged, and I invite your audience to join us.
That's great. I am going to ask you when you're going to ask me to tell my story.
Tell me your story.
No, I don't mean right now. That's definitely too long for what we have left tonight. I'm talking about tell my story in legislature. That would be a good one. I'd be there all day with them. We may go through an entire legislative section, before I get finished, though.
That would be good. You can we'll talk to Barry and we'll see what we can do.
Right,
Barry.
Exactly, of course. Yeah. So tell me what you guys are doing for veterans with multiple sclerosis, or those that are active veterans, and those that are retired veterans.
Certainly. So we have a partnership with the Veterans Administration, and the Society is proud to partner with the VA on a program. So the VA actually has what they call VA MS Centers of Excellence, and they have a robust program with veterans. And we have actually an agreement with the VA to provide information, resources. We do webinars with them. We also celebrate, veterans who live with MS in different ways. And so we partner with the VA, really proud to partner with the VA on that outreach, and are looking for other ways to engage. And the main thing there is to create a vehicle by which the doctors who are in the VA system can refer their patients to the National MS Society. And because it's a federal agency, the only way to do that is to actually have a formal agreement with that. And so a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now, we actually formalized a relationship with the VA. And it's
Right.
just no money changes hands. It's really about providing information, resources, access, and connection. The other thing too, the other great thing is that the VA also has researchers in them, and in fact, one of their head MS researchers, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Mitch Wallin, is one of the people that led our effort around to estimate the number of people living with MS in the United States, and Mitch has been a terrific contributor to helping us really understand how many people live with MS in the United States. So now it's just about 1 million. And sometime next year, we're also going to be able to release findings from our work to understand the other important question people are asking us when we say, well, it's great that we know that there's nearly 1 million people living with MS, but do you know how many people live with MS, say, in the state of Florida for you, Stuart, or in New York for me? And then also, can we get the racial and ethnic makeup of the population? So we're working on that, getting that data. Not straightforward, because it involves pulling data out of some 140 million patient records. So not a straightforward task, but we'll be able to release that data in the new year.
Great. Fabulous. All right. Timothy Coetzee, I am so glad that you were a guest with us again tonight, and I look forward to what we could do in 2022. Please let MS Views and News know what we can do to create more help for the National MS Society, especially in the rural and underserved communities around the United States, which is where we excel most. And it's a pet peeve of mine to get information to everybody, if possible, living with and affected by multiple sclerosis. Okay.
Stuart, it's a pleasure. Thank you to you for having me on the show. Thank you to MS Views and News for everything you do to reach the community. We're in this community together. We're part of a movement together, and so thank you for that. And I thank your audience for the great questions. And certainly, let's keep the conversation going. I know we want to reach 1 million people with MS, and we have a shared goal in doing that. So thank you for that.
That's right. So everybody, we're going to be online again next week. Go to our website, msviewsandnews.org. Check it out. It's in the center column. We have 2 guests next week. We also have yoga at the end of the month after Christmas, all right? And so with a live in-person program that we're doing tomorrow in Central Florida, and that is not a hybrid program. You have to be there if you want to hear it. And again, those remaining programs that we have, we will finish this year with 111 programs.
Wow.
Yay. Okay. And by the way, this week is my 23rd anniversary since I was diagnosed.
Wow. That's an anniversary.
Right. Going strong.
You look great. Thank you.
We're going to kick more butt, okay?
Indeed.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you for being here, and we look forward to speaking with you next year. And for now, I'll just say happy holidays. Have a great night.
You got a great new year to you and your audience, Stuart. Thank you.
Great. Good night.
Cheers.